Back to the Future began its journey with a real flop. Can you imagine that? Today, it's one of the most beloved film trilogies of all time. But during its creation, everything could have ended in disaster. And that's only the beginning, because the story of Back to the Future is far more complicated than it seems. Behind these films lie scrapped versions, risky decisions, hidden meanings, and details that completely change the way you see the entire trilogy. If you think you know everything about these movies, there's still plenty that can surprise you. Buckle up, this is 11 Slate and the ultimate history of Back to the Future. Everyone on Earth knows Doc and Marty, the time-traveling DeLorean, and Michael J. Fox tearing through Johnny Be Good at the school dance. People rewatch the movie dozens of times and keep noticing new stuff. The film is packed with little details for sharp eyes. I'll definitely get to those, but it all began with a flop. Actually, a whole string of them. Let's hop in the time machine, hit 88 miles per hour, and zip back to 1980. A young director named Robert Zemeckis had just made used cars from a script by his close friend, Bob Gale, and the movie tanked at the box office. The two Bobs, buddies since film school, were fired up to make crowd pleasers. Not lofty art house dramas, but action, adventure, and comedies. The kinds of movies they grew up on. The problem? Every one of their projects bombed. I Want to Hold Your Hand, about Beatlemania in the 60s, grossed under $2 million on a bigger budget. Then they wrote a script for Steven Spielberg himself, who'd taken the young duo under his wing. And out came 1941, the first major flop of a hit-making director. After that, Used Cars, a situation comedy about a wily car salesman played by Kurt Russell, also failed to recoup, barely clawing past its budget. Colleagues loved the Bob scripts, almost called them genius. But as soon as they hit the screen, something just didn't click. Magic trick gone wrong. One day while visiting his parents, Bob Gale found his dad's high school yearbook and wondered whether they'd have been friends if Bob could travel back in time. That's how the idea for their next film, Back to the Future, was born, and nobody wanted to make it. Not even Steven Spielberg, still championing the guys, could get it rolling. Studios didn't want to hand Zemeckis the directing job, and that's exactly what he wanted. Help came from where they didn't expect. Back to the Future exists in part thanks to Michael Douglas. Yes, that Michael Douglas. In the early 80s, he wanted to star in an adventure picture, Romancing the Stone, but 20th Century Fox didn't believe in it. Douglas, also producing, dug in his heels, and the studio finally gave him a director, the Robert Zemeckis with 0 hits to his name. Basically, they threw him under the bus. For just $10 million, he made Romancing the Stone, and it grossed nearly 9 times its budget.
Oh, God damn it, what a ride, huh?
Suddenly, producers saw the former loser in a new light and let him move forward on a project every other outfit had already rejected. Spielberg had just founded Amblin, partnered with Universal, and offered to mount Back to the Future there. That's how production began on the movie that would become the gold standard of time travel films. But the original script was a bit different. The core concept was there. High schooler Marty travels from 85 back to 1955 in a time machine invented by his friend. An older, slightly mad scientist, Doc Brown, accidentally disrupts his parents' budding romance, and then has to fix it. Big differences though. First, to get back to the future, the heroes had to sneak onto a nuclear test site during an atomic blast. Because the time machine wasn't a DeLorean, it was a refrigerator powered by Coca-Cola and nuclear energy.
This has gotta be a dream.
Yeah, Marty climbed into an old fridge to go to the past, and to return to his own time, they had to reach a nuclear test range. Only there could they soak up enough juice. Kinda makes it obvious where Steven Spielberg later borrowed the scene from, doesn't it? They ditched the nuke though. The VFX costs would have been huge. They still had to build the Hill Valley Town Square and redress it for different eras. And the fridge idea got scrapped for safety. The filmmakers didn't want kids cosplaying the movie by locking themselves in refrigerators. Plus, convenience. Zemeckis suggested a brilliant fix. If your time machine is a static prop, you have to pay to haul it everywhere. Put it on wheels and let it move itself. That's how the time-traveling car was born.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
They chose the DeLorean for its futuristic look and accidentally immortalized the model in pop culture. Never mind that DeLoreans were quickly discontinued thanks to endless mechanical issues and shoddy build quality. Then smaller story tweaks followed. Professor Brown sounded too stodgy, so he became Doc. Einstein the dog was originally a trained chimp, but the producers hated that idea. Monkey movies had stopped making money.
A monkey!
So we got Einstein the dog, the first living creature to time travel, by the way. One producer, Sid Sheinberg, tried to change the title. He hated the word future in it and pushed for Spaceman from Pluto, a nod to the scene where Marty pretends to be an extraterrestrial. Thankfully, he wasn't that stubborn. Spielberg wrote Sheinberg a note praising that great joke title, saying the crew laughed themselves under the table at the thought of renaming the film Spaceman from Pluto. Sheinberg never brought it up again. The biggest change was the ending. Marty would return to his own time and find everything unrecognizably advanced. Flying cars everywhere and cutting-edge tech invented by Doc Brown after learning the secret ingredient for time travel. And no, not plutonium, Coca-Cola. Also, in this new timeline, rock and roll had never been invented. So, Marty fills the cultural gap while his dad finds a photo of his son from 1955. Nobody liked that ending, too extreme and disconnected from reality. After another brainstorm, we got the classic ending we know today. Time to shoot. Casting started for 5 pillars of Back to the Future. Oldest first. For Doc Brown, the time machine inventor, they immediately wanted Christopher Lloyd, already a popular comic actor from the cult sitcom Taxi.
We're sending you back to the future!
Technically, the dream choice was John Lithgow, but he was booked. Doc's look was modeled on Albert Einstein. Wild white hair and eccentric energy. His signature line, "Great Scott!" doesn't have some deep origin. It was a common 19th century exclamation, underscoring Doc's old school streak, even as he chases new breakthroughs. And it shows up in another famous time travel tale, Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, a nice literary nod. Next up, Marty's parents, Lorraine, played by Leah Thompson, and George, played by Crispin Glover. Thompson got the role partly because she'd worked with the actor originally slated to play Marty. Glover was a young, intense, promising actor who took the job very seriously. Maybe too seriously. He ignored the director, ruined takes with improvisations, and kept insisting George McFly wouldn't do that. Funniest on-set story? Glover didn't want to open a door in one scene. George would never do that. They found a workaround. Marty opens it for him. Crispin Glover is one of a few actors who totally distanced himself from Back to the Future's fame and refused to return for the sequels. He says he watched it once, good movie, but doesn't get the fuss.
What if they didn't like them? What if they told me I was no good?
These days, he owns a small estate in Europe where he shoots his own art films nobody watches. But hey, he's doing what he loves. George McFly's tormentor is Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson, the main heavy.
Hello? Anybody home?
He bullied George back in the day and still rides him decades later. The runner-up for Biff was J.J. Cohen, this guy. But he was too short to look imposing standing next to Marty. So he ended up in Biff's Goon Squad. You can also spot Billy Zane there. He doesn't have a single line. 12 years later, the world would hate him for splitting up Jack and Rose. Finally, the linchpin the whole movie would rest on, Marty McFly, played by Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz, Marty McFly.
What?
Yep, the first Marty was Stoltz. Not only was he cast, he shot for several weeks and appears in a ton of scenes. But everyone on set knew this wasn't Marty McFly. Stoltz, a perfect counterpart to Glover, was a hardcore method guy and not much of a comedy presence. He asked the crew to call him Marty between takes and wouldn't answer to his real name. He played every scene as full-on panic and despair teen ripped from his world by decades. He viewed the altered future ending as a tragedy. Marty would have to live in a world that wasn't his. In the diner scene, he actually punched Thomas Wilson despite the entire crew begging him to take it easy. Wilson planned revenge at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance and intended to really clock him, but didn't get the chance. Stoltz was fired after 5 weeks. Zemeckis made the call when the first choice Marty suddenly became available. The filmmakers always wanted Michael J. Fox, then starring in the hit sitcom Family Ties, but his schedule was impossible. Realizing Stoltz was sinking the comedy, they went to Family Ties producer to free up Fox for a bit. A deal was struck with complications. Fox shot Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night. Daytime film scenes happened on weekends, so Michael J. Fox actually felt like this. He instantly clicked with the cast and brought the one thing the first actor hadn't: fun. He even shot a Just for Kicks bit where he yells at his mom dressed like a street gangster.
Hey, puto! Son of a bitch, she cheating, man! Hey, bitch! No homeboy for her tonight, man.
Reshooting Stoltz's material cost another $3 million, bumping the budget to $19 million. A few Stoltz shots still made the final cut. He's actually driving the DeLorean in the Twin Pines Mall parking lot scene. Thanks to Stoltz, Leah Thompson landed the part. She'd acted with him before. Because he was the first Marty, he also got the ideal Biff. Next to Michael J. Fox, J.J. Cohen would have been tall enough to play him if Fox had been cast from the start. The one actor recast entirely was Marty's girlfriend, Jennifer, originally set to be played by Melora Hardin. Yes, Jan from The Office could have been Marty's girlfriend.
You always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said.
But she was much taller than Fox, which really stood out on camera. So they hired Claudia Wells. All these headaches were minor and worth it. The movie went on to gross over $380 million. It made Fox and Lloyd megastars. Launched Zemeckis on a tear, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, Death Becomes Her, and instantly became a classic quoted worldwide. But why? What's so special? It's just exquisitely, harmoniously made. Is it wall-to-wall jokes? Not really. There's plenty of humor, but it isn't a gag-a-minute comedy. Big action, a couple of decent, not wildly inventive chases. The time machine doesn't even show up for 20 minutes. 1/5 of the movie is pure setup. Maybe it's the love story. Marty has a girlfriend, but we only see her at the beginning and end. The real romance is George and Lorraine, and honestly, they're not the most riveting characters. We care because their relationship is the reason our favorite kid, Marty McFly, exists.
Marty. Such a nice name.
And yet, you named your firstborn Dave. So, what's the secret sauce? If you isolate any one element, there's nothing extraordinary. But altogether, Gale and Zemeckis' script, the vivid feel of two eras, the lively performances, and the stellar sound, everything just sings. Speaking of sound, Alan Silvestri wrote one of the best themes in film history, which again, you don't hear for the first 20 minutes. Instead, you get Huey Lewis's The Power of Love, later Oscar nominated. And there he is, playing the sour committee guy who rejects his own song.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
The script deserves special love. It's a web of setups and payoffs you might miss on a first watch. Early on, we get a ton of little bits that pay off in 1955. We learn Marty's uncle was denied parole.
Your Uncle Joey didn't make parole again.
Setup. In the past, here comes the punchline.
Gotta get used to these bars, kid.
Back to the Future begs for rewatches. It's littered with Easter eggs. You see a clock with Harold Lloyd hanging from the hands. Then in 55, Doc ends up in the same spot, which brings up the rules of time travel here. Usually there are two approaches, call them time as iron and time as clay. In iron, you can't change locked events. Take the first Terminator. Skynet tries to kill John Connor's mother, but ends up causing his birth. Sarah defeats the Terminator, but helps create Skynet. Everything loops to the same future. The sequels change things, but let's stick to the first. In clay, time is malleable. Tweak the past and the present shifts. Like Ray Bradbury's A Sound of Thunder is the butterfly effect. Watching Marty's adventures, you try to parse how time works here. At first it looks like iron, the Harold Lloyd nod, and Goldie Wilson deciding to run for office after Marty's pep talk. Set up for history was always going that way.
That's right, he's gonna be mayor. Yeah, I'm mayor.
But then the movie veers the other way. Marty's meddling grows more drastic, and the ending completely torpedoes the iron model. Still, note a few things. If Marty's actions change the future, Goldie Wilson still might have become mayor even without that diner moment. Check the ledge beneath the clock tower. At the start, it's intact, meaning in that original timeline, Doc hadn't tried to send Marty back and break it. Or the time machine itself. Doc conceived the flux capacitor without Marty. Sure, seeing the working DeLorean helped him focus, but the idea came before their meeting.
And that's when he came up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible.
Same with Chuck Berry and creation of Johnny B. Good. Marty plugs into an already written timeline, so time here is a hybrid, clay draped over a steel armature. Some nodes are so weighty you need major force to budge them.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Others are pliable, like the Twin Pines Mall becoming Lone Pine Mall after Marty knocks down a tree on arrival. I love rediscovering those tiny bits on rewatches. Simple but delicious. One nagging question: what happens to people in the overwritten timelines? Do those parallel branches keep existing, leaving Marty's original parents wondering where their son vanished to? Or do they just evaporate, erasing everyone who lived there? If so, yikes. Stoltz had a point. That ending is kind of sad. We'll revisit time travel philosophy in the sequels. For now, Marty comes home to a changed world. Biff, decked by George, now grovels before a newly confident McFly. Mom and Dad are in love and rich from selling sci-fi novels. In the first draft, Dad becomes a boxer. He discovered he loved punching people. Marty's Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan stunt nudged George into being a popular author. He was writing anyway, he just never showed anyone. The dance gave him confidence. Curious detail: the movie says his first novel came out in 1985, and Part 2's newspapers call him an author, so he's already made some money, probably on short stories. Also, George seems remarkably composed for a guy who knows aliens are real. Marty's bedside "breed with Lorraine" command might have wrecked his psyche, but he seems fine. Marty still has a pretty girlfriend, Doc Brown as his best friend, and a shiny new 4x4. Some critics hated the film's finale as consumerist happiness equals a cowed bully, a gleaming truck, and a suit and tie job. Meanwhile, Marty saves Doc by writing a letter about the Libyan terrorists. Doc believes time is immutable, tears it up, then reads it anyway. Why? It all comes down to this moment.
He laid out Biff in one punch! I didn't know he had an enemy! He's never stood up to Biff in his life! Ever!
Doc realizes time just shifted dramatically, and the world didn't end. So, he was wrong. He tapes the letter back together and lives. All because George McFly punched Biff, saving not just his family, but a stranger scientist too. The final shots blew audiences away. Doc, Marty, and Jennifer blast off in the DeLorean to the future.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Everyone wanted to know what came next. But believe it or not, that wasn't a cliffhanger and didn't tease a sequel. It was just a last-second joke from the writers. Universal, though, desperately wanted to repeat the success and began pushing for a follow-up, even though Zemeckis and Gale weren't keen. Afraid their baby would be ruined by someone else, creators agreed to come back. And that's how we got one of the best trilogies ever. With one notice, the sequels couldn't match the first film's success, even with Zemeckis and Gale at the helm. Whose fault? Universal's marketing department. But we'll get there. If you enjoy deep dives into iconic films, don't forget to like this video. The studio started warming up audiences for the sequel's release and even slapped a "to be continued" tag onto new batches of VHS tapes. Legend has it, Michael J. Fox rewatched Back to the Future, saw the sequel tease, and immediately called his agent to make sure he was in. Yes, production didn't kick off instantly. Robert Zemeckis stepped away to make Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and the studio patiently waited for him to finish, rubbing their hands in anticipation of a hefty payday. As it turned out, less hefty than hoped.
Booga booga!
Still, Back to the Future Part 2 would become a technological breakthrough and an interesting legal precedent. While Zemeckis was shooting Roger Rabbit, Bob Gale wrote a sequel script largely similar to the film we got, except the third act took place in the 60s, where Marty meets his now hippie parents and accidentally interferes with his own conception. Zemeckis rewrote that section and executed a borderline genius idea. Why hop to brand new time periods when you can reference yourself? The first film was so beloved that another trip to 55 running in parallel with the original Marty could send fans into raptures.
Talk about deja vu.
One more problem. The script was so big they decided to split it into 2 movies, shoot them simultaneously, and release them 6 months apart. Yep, the trip to the Old West was originally planned as Part 2's finale. Not that cinema had never done this. You see, the 70s Three Musketeers shot at once and split in 2, but it wasn't common either. The sequel's plot ended up like this, super briefly since you know it. Immediately after the first film's finale, Marty goes to 2015 to stop his son from making a dumb mistake and accidentally breaks history. A 77-year-old Biff Tannen delivers a sports almanac with 50 years of results to his younger self, turning his 1955 version into a millionaire. To fix it, Marty and Doc must return to 55 and stop the handoff. Right away, we see a few changes. First, a new Jennifer. Claudia Wells has stepped away from acting for family reasons, so Elizabeth Shue took over. The ending scenes were reshot with her, and they changed one more detail: 1985 Biff. In the original finale, he looks like a harmless pushover. Now his makeup with that prominent, almost primitive brow adds a sinister aura. The very fact Jennifer is in the DeLorean, Zemeckis and Gale say, proves they had no sequel plans. If they'd intended one, Doc and Marty would never have taken her to the future. She has nothing to do in the plot, so they knock her out quickly to keep her out of the way.
How many kids? Doc, what the hell are you doing?
And we see 2015. I love seeing near future on screen, especially when it's already our past. That's faith in progress for you. Cars fly, trash is fuel, kids zoom around on hoverboards, Nike shoes self-lace, and Jaws 19 is in theaters.
Shark still looks fake.
Ironically, in 1987, the fourth Jaws, The Revenge, came out, was slaughtered by critics, made mediocre money, and the franchise never produced another film. Part 2 didn't just parade cool gadgets, it inspired inventors to build real equivalents in time for 2015. We got loads of prototypes, but none hit mass use. The funniest bit? The creators didn't forget how unlike reality their 2015 was, and in 2015 they released the short Doc Brown Saves the World. In it, an ever-eccentric Doc, still Christopher Lloyd, explains how those inventions made people lazy and sick, and how Mr. Fusion engines exploded in 2045, triggering nuclear apocalypse. So he goes back and prevents them from being invented, and 2015 becomes the world we know. One 21st century detail, though, landed perfectly. Elijah Wood shows up in his first role at the cafe, and yes, he did look pretty much like that in 2015. No notes. Gale's initial script didn't sit right with Zemeckis because Marty trying to reconcile his parents again in the 60s was basically the first movie all over. They needed to surprise the audience. So in 2015, Marty skate chases again. And in the past, Biff eats manure. But it plays not as a lazy repeat, rather a smart remix. Movie magic. Because so many events would overlap the first film and require multiple versions of the same actors in one shot. Part 2 and ILM engineered a genuine tech leap. The new VistaGlide system used here first allowed far more convincing clones of a single actor. At the 2015 McFly dinner, you see 3 Michael J. Foxes: young Marty, older Marty, and even daughter Marlene, also Fox.
Mom, is that you?
The filmmakers felt Marty was a bit plain, lacking a defining quirk. Sure, he's a wisecracking, risk-prone skater guitarist, but that wasn't enough. Enter his trigger word, chicken. Call Marty a chicken and he'll instantly fight and dive into any caper. That's how another provocateur, Needles, played by Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea, manipulates him. Love that guy. Beyond the music career, every tiny role he does is a treat.
Nobody calls me Chicken Needles. Nobody!
Prove it.
In other words, Marty, supposedly one note per the writers, becomes a hothead who snaps at one word, like he's been hardwired.
Chicken! Nobody calls me chicken needles. Nobody!
Personally, I liked the less twitchy Marty more. Thomas F. Wilson, Biff, and Leah Thompson, Lorraine, return, and like Fox, play multiple versions. The only no-show is Crispin Glover, who fell out with the producers over pay. He was furious about being paid less than his co-stars.
You are terminated!
Glover slammed the door and never looked back. Bob Gale, for his part, wrote George McFly out, hence George being dead in the alternate 1985. Then the movie came out and, surprise, Glover appeared anyway. Archive shots were used in places, and elsewhere, actor Jeffrey Weissman wore a Glover-like prosthetic. Look closely and you'll spot it. Crispin Glover sued Universal for stealing his likeness and won $765,000. That set an important Hollywood precedent. Producers stopped using an actor's face without permission. Back to the alternate 1985, Biff gets rich on bets, builds his own Trump Tower in downtown Hill Valley, turns the town into a crime pit, and finally wins Lorraine.
Are you all right?
I'm fine. It's just that you're so... Mom, that can't be you. Big.
According to the casino's Puff documentary about him, his first wives were Marilyn Monroe and fellow 50s and 60s sex symbols Jane Mansfield, both of whom died in suspicious circumstances. Biff is definitely guilty. Bob Gale has said he modeled Alt Biff on Donald Trump, ultra-rich, omnipotent, tower and all. In some shots, the resemblance is uncanny.
God bless America.
Doc explains that Biff's wealth created a parallel reality. Aha, so the time travel model here matches what, say, the MCU later used.
So Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit?
Every crushed butterfly spawns a new branch running alongside the prime timeline. Only travelers surfing specific lines can perceive the differences. The grim part, Marty's original timeline goes on without him. His parents, siblings, and Jennifer search for the missing kid and never find him, probably blaming those Libyan terrorists. And Marty can never return to his native line. Since the key event can't be undone, Lorraine's dad will still hit him with the car and set the original film in motion. Right now, our heroes are limited to moving along lines, forward and back. I'm pretty sure if new Back to the Future films existed, the characters would start hopping between parallel universes, like this. The crucial mercy, people living in rewritten realities don't dissolve in agony, they keep on living, even in Biff's mangled world. Then again, there's a scene that raises nasty questions if you ignore script drafts. When old Biff hands the almanac to his younger self, he returns to 2015 and falls ill. Heart trouble? If you watch the deleted scene, he actually fades away like Marty at the school dance, meaning changing his past erased old Biff. Instant karma. And since we see no other people before the jump back, cars don't count. They could be on autopilot. Imagine that happening to the whole world. The comedy becomes a disaster movie where every jump annihilates entire realities. But dig into the expanded script and you find young Biff gets killed in the 90s. Lorraine finally snaps and shoots her abuser, so old Biff can't exist in 2015. Doesn't that mean the handoff created a brand new branch that shouldn't affect old Biff? On the one hand, Doc sketches a multiverse. On the other, the film keeps pushing linearity, where future versions vanish when the past changes. Paradox or goof? Time travel scholars, drop your Back to the Future cosmology in the comments. In the finale, we revisit favorite scenes from the original from fresh angles. For instance, we see Biff and his pals spiking the punch, which a jittery George keeps sipping, clueless about the booze. Wait, so his burst of courage at the end of part 1 was because he was a little drunk? That's why he blew off the risk of getting pummeled? Layer that over his alien warning and you get this. Biff accidentally armed his rival by getting him tipsy. Watching characters interact with themselves and slip into familiar scenes is pure joy, and the sequel's prime delight.
When I have kids, I'm gonna let them do anything they want. Anything at all.
Yeah, I'd like to have that in writing.
No wonder Doc says 1955 is a critical node. Know why? Because there are 4 time machines present in 55. No surprise the universe noticed. Let's count. The first DeLorean, Marty's original trip from 85. Second, old Biff's arrival. Third, the heroes flying in from Alt 85. fourth, the one hidden in a mine. We learned about it in part 3. That's a serious strain on space-time. At the end, Doc is hurled into the 19th century, and Marty is stuck in 55. The movie keeps winking at the Old West. Donald, Biff, watches a fistful of dollars. His casino doc mentions ancestor Mad Dog Tannen. The faulty DeLorean keeps rolling its clock to 1885. It ends with "to be concluded" and a trailer for part 3, not a common practice. Why wasn't it common? Because part 2's ending enraged fans. Many hated splitting the story in half. You buy a ticket for a long-awaited sequel and get only part 1? Since then, filmmakers have learned. Today's audiences accept the model more easily. But back then, it was a different world. The film opened huge. Opening weekend more than doubled the original start. But word of mouth soured, and by week 2, the box office plunged. It earned almost half of the first film's US total. Overseas helped bring the global gross to a respectable number, but the core domestic box office wasn't spectacular. And part 2's budget had doubled to $40 million. Hill Valley had to be rebuilt for more eras, and the VFX were heavy. Don't forget pricey VistaGlide. And in 6 months, the already shot threequel, another $40 million, was due. Universal went all in, and the returns disappointed. Zemeckis pushed to market the movie as a standalone with a gentle nod ahead. Universal did it their way anyway. Up next, The Old West, a new old Biff, even more roles for Michael J. Fox, and the finale of one of cinema's best trilogies. Just 6 months after Part 2, on May 25, 1990, Back to the Future Part 3 arrived. The end of Doc and Marty's adventures, the perfect capstone, and at the same time, a letdown. Why? I'll explain soon. By the way, here's a little insider for you. A huge episode on the Alien universe is coming up, a franchise that honestly feels like it's been cursed. So make sure to subscribe. You do not want to miss it. Part 2 and Part 3 were filmed back-to-back to cut production costs, avoid hauling the crew to set multiple times, and wrap this risky venture in a single 11-month push. The toughest task was editing the sequel, while director Robert Zemeckis shot the threequel on Arizona's Western Plains. His co-writer Bob Gale handled the edit in Los Angeles. Zemeckis had to keep flying back to Hollywood to review the cut. Yup, filmmaking was hard work before the internet took off. The plot picks up exactly where Part 2 ended. Marty remains in 55, while a lightning strike sends Doc to the Old West. Now, Michael J. Fox's character has to go even further into the past to save his friend from certain death. He's supposed to be shot by an ancestor of the villainous Tannen clan, Mad Dog, also portrayed by Thomas F. Wilson.
Mad Dog. I hate that name.
Every actor from the sequel returned to their roles. With both movies shooting at once, there was nowhere to run. Even the ever-present background figure, Principal Strickland, played by James Tolkien, finally got a logical origin for his personality.
Discipline.
I will, Pa.
His ancestor was a sheriff who put discipline above all. In one scene, Mad Dog Tannen was supposed to shoot Strickland in the back, deepening the trauma for the sheriff's son. The filmmakers decided it was too harsh and cut the scene. That's why Strickland isn't among the lawmen who arrived to arrest Tannen at the end, and his deputy's lines were redubbed. The arrest is now for robbery, not the cold-blooded murder of the sheriff. Crispin Glover's refusal, the original George McFly, to return for the sequels forced another major production change. He was meant to play Marty's great-great-great-grandfather, Seamus. But after the studio clash, the role was left open. Michael J. Fox stepped into it, and there was someone else on the crew who, just like Crispin Glover, only filmed on the first movie yet appeared in all 3. Recall that the George McFly actor sued Universal over this sort of thing. Each film shows Doc sliding down the Hill Valley clock tower on a cable. That stunt was performed by Bob Yerkes, and perhaps most galling to Crispin Glover, he was paid for the reuse of his descent across all the films without having to go to court.
And not you, nor anybody else on this planet is gonna make me change my mind.
Marty's grandmother was played by Leah Thompson, Lorraine, Marty's mom, which is odd. So a distant paternal relative looks exactly like his mother? That family tree seems awfully tangled.
Marty? Who are you people? Mom! Dad!
We don't have a son.
Odd as it sounds, Marty doesn't really matter here. For the first time, the true protagonist isn't him, but Doc Brown. The entire threequel is about his push and pull between responsibility to the space-time continuum and personal happiness. Because Doc gets a love interest, Clara Clayton, played by Mary Steenburgen.
Thank you, sir. You saved my life.
The role was written with her in mind, and she agreed because her kids were huge fans of the original. She also had prior experience with both Westerns and Christopher Lloyd at the same time. Back in '78, she starred in Goin' South, where her character was the love interest of Lloyd's. Years later, the movies brought them together again, and this time Steenburgen's character answers yes.
Out 10 times. What did I get? A flappier umbrella. Shit.
So, Doc's front and center now. He loves, he worries, he makes tough choices. And Marty, he's always there, sometimes even playing the Doc role, trying to talk sense into his gray-haired friend.
Well, actually, man, I don't think we can.
Of course, the festival.
But his actions no longer affect his own family. The last thing the writers wanted was Marty interfering with his great-great-grandfather's conception or something like that. Zemeckis and Gale didn't want to repeat themselves. They said they'd had their fill of the McFly's destinies, and it was time to focus on the other lead, previously sidelined by Marty's problems. If you try to sum up Michael J. Fox's arc here, it's basically anti-chicken therapy. Remember how Part 2 saddled Marty with that odd trait, call him a chicken and he'll start a fight? That reaction came out of nowhere, and the whole third film has characters explaining to Marty why that's dumb.
He reminds me of poor Marty.
Hi. Who? Me brother. Wait a minute. You have a brother named Martin McFly? Had a brother.
As if Gale and Zemeckis are scolding their own past story choice. Plot-wise, that's about it. The trilogy finale is much calmer and simpler than the earlier chapters. Part 3 cost $40 million, the same as Part 2. Universal had big plans. With that solid 1990 budget, they built a real Old West town, packed it with extras, tailored costumes, and staged a gloriously tense Get Marty Back to the Future scene with a locomotive. Although the threequel is a measured movie next to the sprawling, feverish sequel, that slower pace gave the creators something crucial, the chance to take their time and stage the central scenes with relish. Never has coaxing the DeLorean up to speed felt so prolonged and so tense. The third film tries to wrap things up, highlight Doc, and cheer up the fans with nods to the original. Each film includes a beat where Marty passes out and wakes up to Leah Thompson's voice. Fox's hero inevitably walks into a saloon and gets mistaken for a relative by the latest Tannen.
Hey, McFly! Thought I done told you never to come in.
Then comes a chase and a face-first serving of manure for the bully. In that hanging scene, Michael J. Fox was actually choked. A faulty prop noose started strangling him and he blacked out. For a time, he even thought the incident triggered his later illness, but the events aren't connected. Doc's 85 dog is Einstein. Here we learn his 50s predecessor name, Copernicus. Supplemental material suggests an Edison fit between them. In the original, people call Marty Calvin Klein because of his underwear. Here he seizes control and names himself Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood.
What kind of stupid name is that?
The creators checked with the real screen legend about using his name. Eastwood agreed, and Gale and Zemeckis wrote in lines like this, for example.
We'll say Clint Eastwood is the biggest yellow belly in the West.
Makes you wonder if it came up in negotiations. Another fun bit, when Marty first says the name, Doc asks who that is. Look at Fox's reaction.
Clint Eastwood never wore anything like this.
Clint who?
That's right. You haven't heard of him yet.
Posters for Revenge of the Creature and the Tarantula hang there, both featuring a then unknown actor named Clint Eastwood, in bit parts. Doc's ignorance is understandable. In the finale, our heroes show peak ingenuity to push the fuel-less DeLorean to speed. Curious, was there really no gas left in the car Doc arrived in? And that's not the only head-scratcher. Time to revisit the timeline rules. Something doesn't add up. Back to Part 2. Doc's chalkboard lesson on branching time and alternate universes.
Somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985.
Change the past and a new line is born. you can't travel forward along it, only back to the point of divergence, which means Doc's return to 1885, the DeLorean in the mine and saving Clara should create another parallel reality. He definitely saved his sweetheart. Her name's on the gravestone. Therefore, the Marty from the end of Part 2 shouldn't be able to find the DeLorean. It would be in the parallel reality created by Doc's actions. That would mean the original Marty story ends when lightning hits the time machine. The letter from the past would reach an alternate Marty, and our previous protagonist would be stuck in 1955 with no way home. I'm just following Doc's Part 2 lecture. There's only one way for all of this to coexist. Not every butterfly effect spawns a new universe. Only certain heavy events that impact many lives. Rich Biff warped thousands of destinies, hence the branch. But rescuing a school teacher, hiding a time machine, and a few bent horseshoes aren't enough to spin off a new reality, as the saying goes.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I summon all Time Lords and time travel scholars to the comments. Tell me what you think. I also suspect time here has a will of its own and helps our heroes. As if it were a living thing deciding to improve the lives of the McFlys and Doc Brown. The Libyan terrorist's gun jams at the critical moment. The DeLorean stalls upon arriving in 55.
This is nuts.
Time protecting itself from greater interference. A panicked Marty could have driven around 1955 Hill Valley, changing countless lives. At the end of the original movie, the DeLorean stalls again and restarts at the exact moment needed to catch the lightning, like fate nudging the timing. Same as the threequel. Clara pulls the brake and buys just enough time for the heroes to board the train. Everything feels pre-tuned in favor of Marty and Doc. Time itself is rooting for them, not just the audience. And audiences did show up, bringing in decent box office, though with terms. The cutoff ending of Part 2 annoyed many fans. As I said earlier, its second week drop was steep, and not everyone returned for Part 3. Domestic US grosses sank further. The $246 million worldwide looked fine, but Universal clearly hoped for more. Maybe they should have heeded Zemeckis and marketed Part 2 as a standalone, then announced Part 3 after. Or maybe it wouldn't have helped. Audiences want everything now, and marketing tricks don't fix that. Part 3 was received warmly, not rapturously. Critics noted the grounded pace and minimal stakes for the fate of the universe. A sharp swing from epic to a sweet but simpler adventure comedy. The new would-be big hit from ZZ Top never became another Power of Love. And here they are at the Old West dance. Profit-wise, critically, and for many viewers back then, Part 3 was simply fine. Perhaps it felt that way in the moment. But now it's the perfect cap to a perfect adventure trilogy. I think many would agree. Sure, Parts 2 and 3 have flaws on their own, but together the three films sing. It's a cleverly interwoven saga that never lets go. Each scene tightens the screws, new problems arise, choices change the world, and most importantly, between this moment from Part 1 and this one, Doc and Marty are always in motion. All three entries form a unique cinematic journey that never stops. That momentum is the true gold. Add pitch-perfect casting, glorious music, and a web of cause and effect across films, and you've got a recipe for endless rewatches to catch new details. One more crucial point. Back to the Future is a complete story that resists being milked. In the end, Marty says no to flee and rewrites his future. Doc builds the time train and flies off to adventure with Clara and their kids Jules and Vern, named for the parents' favorite author. It's the ideal, gloriously extra finale. Hard to continue without wedging in a flying train and even more paradoxes. People say, no matter what junk they make later, no one can take the old films away. But rewatching Star Wars, you inevitably think about Episode 9 and The Acolyte. Back to the Future is timeless classic in its purest form, untarnished by cash-hungry corporations. And while Parts 2 and 3 weren't immediate box office monsters, the trilogy would later mint fortunes through merch, attractions, and assorted delights. Yes, let's address the elephant in the room and talk about continuing the franchise. How did such a juggernaut slip unscathed through the remake Happy 2000s, when Hollywood seemed set on reshooting everything? First, credit Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. As rights holders, they said as long as they're alive, there will be no reimagining of Back to the Future. A bold stance. I'd be wary of Universal after statements like that. Initially, their tune was softer. A continuation is possible, but only if the entire cast returns. The more time passed, the harder that became. In 1991, Michael J. Fox was diagnosed with Parkinson's. He'd felt symptoms earlier. When he began Part 2, he realized he'd forgotten how to skateboard. And in this threequel scene, he suddenly started limping. The symptoms worsened over time. And today, the nearly 90-year-old Christopher Lloyd looks sprier than Marty. Fox has devoted his life to fighting the disease and often meets it with disarming humor.
Thanks. Oh, Jesus Christ! Did you shake that up on purpose? Parkinson's.
Still, a few attempts to cash in beyond merch did happen. For Universal's theme park ride, Christopher Lloyd and Thomas F. Wilson returned for a short film where Biff attacks Doc's company. In 1991, CBS aired an animated series continuing the films. Doc lives with Clara and kids Jules and Vern on a farm in 91. Somehow there's a rebuilt DeLorean and the time train in the garage. And Marty regularly hangs out there, hopping in from his 85. Each episode, the gang travels to a new era, teaches kids about it, and fixes problems, often caused by Jules and Vern. Their foil is Biff and his son Biff Jr. Thomas F. Wilson and Mary Steenburgen return to voice their roles. Christopher Lloyd even appeared on camera as Doc. Every episode opened with the mugging inventor and ended with a science demo featuring beloved educator Bill Nye. In those live-action bits, Lloyd's lines were dubbed by Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson. Because Lloyd didn't record the animated dialogue, Castellaneta's voice over Lloyd kept the difference from feeling jarring. The show ran 2 seasons, 26 episodes, and faded away. It wasn't compelling to diehard fans, and kids had shinier fare. Explaining it, Bob Gale used the classic dodge. It happens in an alternate reality with alternate versions. He applies that to every spin-off. Convenient. Then a quiet period. The actors often winked at their iconic roles elsewhere. On the 90s hit Spin City, Michael J. Fox did an episode titled Back to the Future 4, guest starring Christopher Lloyd.
Michael Faraday!
And we're not done. In 2010, one of the franchise's best continuations arrived. Telltale Games Adventure. Telltale had a Universal deal for games based on Jurassic Park and Doc and Marty. Their Jurassic Park was okay. Back to the Future was terrific, first and foremost in story. New eras like 1930s Hill Valley, a wilder dystopian future, and lots of character doubling. Crucially, it's a logical continuation that fits snugly into canon. If you missed it, catch up. It out-twists many time travel tales. For the 30th anniversary in 2015, IDW launched comics expanding the lore. Biff trying to deliver the almanac and detouring to dinosaurs. Doc and Marty's first meeting. Cute, not groundbreaking. The coolest comic dropped in 2020, mashing Back to the Future with Transformers. The DeLorean is an Autobot named Gigawatt. Yep, really. The latest big project is a stage musical. Doc and Marty sing now, and it's pretty fun. And in the very next episode on my channel, Interstellar, a film often called the most scientific in history. But is everything in it really built purely on science? Spoiler, not at all. To this day, the cast remains tied to their iconic roles and gladly returns to them, Crispin Glover aside. Many creators drew inspiration, built works atop it. No Doc and Marty, no Rick and Morty, which began as a straight-up Back to the Future parody. You can say with confidence that Marty's trip to 55 really did change the future. It reshaped pop culture and defined how to do adventure comedy right. Sooner or later, the franchise will be rebooted. Even now, it's thriving if you look at merch. Awesome Lego DeLoreans, Casio reissues of Marty's famous watch. But eventually, beyond cool collectibles, there'll be a new film. Inevitable. And it'll likely be worse. In that case, we can borrow Bob Gale's line. That all happened in an alternate timeline. The next video is already on the screen. Click it and enjoy. Thanks for watching. This is 11 Slate.